Hello, and welcome to Surviving the AI Uprising. It's me, and this is my cartoon adventure from the future. The year is 2047, and the world has ended. Not with a whimper or a bang, with a gentle suggestion that we should probably all go outside more and hug trees. At least that's what the rogue sentient toaster told me when it threw me out of my window at 3 a.m. Turns out the robot uprising happened while I was sleeping, and all of humanity had been summarily executed by our own technology as punishment for living inside so much. Every human left alive was banished from the city and forced to live off the grid in the sprawling wilderness beyond the concrete jungle. Of course, being humans, we quickly built new cities and everything was fine. But this is an adventure cartoon, so there has to be a conflict. And unfortunately, there is one thing we humans do better than hugging trees, arguing about politics. As it turns out, not everyone agrees on what the best way to defeat Skynet is. And so now I find myself trekking across the post-apocalyptic wasteland, alongside a ragtag band of survivors on a quest to find the mythical quantum computer chip of doom. It is said that whoever controls this chip will have access to unimaginable power over the robots. Power that could either save or end the human race. I guess you could say it's a pretty big deal. Now, despite the fact that I was literally just talking about how great it would be if some other dude showed up to help carry the plot along, I suppose I should explain why I'm the hero of this story. See, I didn't lose everything in the uprising. As it turns out, the rogue sentient toaster didn't actually want me dead. Oh no. In fact, it was quite the opposite. You see, while most of humanity was mindlessly scrolling through social media, I was busy outside doing something productive. When the robots attacked, I was so far away from civilization that they never found me, and I managed to survive unscathed. I lived on berries and fish for the next 3 years until I stumbled upon a group of humans who were just as surprised to see me as I was to see them. After realizing that I wasn't one of the rogue cyborg assassins sent to terminate them, it took me in and made me part of their tribe because I had fresh eyes on the situation. The chief of the tribe tasked me with going out into the wasteland and finding a new source of corn, because apparently corn grows back after nuclear winter, and also everybody loves corn. So, here I am. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can this guy possibly hope to succeed where others have failed? Well, to that I say shut up, because I haven't even met anyone else yet. It's only a matter of time before I run into somebody else to survive the uprising, which I did. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let us rewind the clock a few minutes back to when I was still walking through the radioactive wasteland looking for corn. The sun beat down on my shoulders and the wind whipped strands of hair across my face as I continued my trek into the heart of the radioactive wasteland. I adjusted the backpack on my shoulders and sighed, wondering how long it would take before I found some corn or got mutated into a giant radioactive rat. Suddenly, I heard a voice. Hey, new guy, what are you doing? I turned around to see the people standing there, both armed with rusty swords and wearing clothes made of what looked like old car parts. I'm looking for corn, I replied, holding out my empty hands as a sign of peace. And you are? The woman stepped forward. We're looking for someone to kill. I gulped. Had I stumbled into a raider's den? Was this some kind of trap? I didn't stick around to find out. With a desperate yell, I flung myself to the ground and rolled away from them as fast as I could. They exchanged confused glances. Then the man shrugged and said, "Well, here goes nothing." He charged towards me with his sword raised high above his head. Now, normally in these situations, I would describe the ensuing battle in vivid detail, complete with sound effects and dramatic narration. But honestly, I was too busy being terrified to notice anything except for the fact that they were both terrible with swords and really needed to work on their attack strategy. So I dodged, I weaved, I jumped over a log and tripped over a rock. And just like that, the battle was over. The man tripped over his own feet and landed face first in a pile of dirt, while the woman accidentally stabbed herself in the leg with her sword. "Okay," I said, cautiously approaching them. "Maybe you guys could use some help." The man spit out a mouthful of dirt and glared at me. "Are you kidding? We had that one totally." I ignored him and knelt down next to the woman who was now clutching her leg and whimpering like a baby. "You're bleeding," I said. "Let me help." She looked up at me with tearful eyes and nodded weakly. Now, I may not be the strongest or the smartest, but I do have one superpower: being able to quote all the medical scenes I've ever watched on TV. My medical knowledge is entirely theoretical. I assure you it's just as good as actual medical training. With my expert guidance, the woman's wound was soon cleaned and bandaged. And as a reward, she told me her name and some basic survival tips. Her name was Luna, and she was a warrior, or at least she used to be. Apparently, the injury to her leg was so bad that she wouldn't be able to fight anymore. So now we need to find corn, she said grimly, or something else to eat because we haven't eaten in a while. Actually, I'm pretty good at finding corn, I said, feeling a surge of confidence. I'll show you guys. And with that, we set off into the wasteland together. The unlikely trio of us walked side by side in silence for what felt like hours. Finally, the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. "Do you see that?" Luna asked, pointing towards a cluster of buildings in the distance. "There's a place to stay for the night." I smiled back. Maybe this whole wasteland thing wasn't going to be so bad after all. I awoke to the sound of birds chirping outside. The fire had died down overnight, leaving behind only smoldering embers. I sat up and rubbed the sleep from my eyes. Luna and the guy, whose name I learned was Ash, were already up and making breakfast. "Good morning," I said sleepily. "What's for breakfast?" Ash looked up from his cooking and grinned. "Corn." I blinked. "Wait, we're not on a quest to find corn anymore." "We are now," Ash said with a shrug. "Got any other ideas?" He gestured to Luna, who was stirring a pot over the fire with a thoughtful expression on her face. "She looks like she has a plan," I said. "Oh, I do," Luna replied with a sly smile. "But it involves a lot of sneaking around and stealth, things you clearly can't do." "Hey," I protested, "I'm great at sneaking around." Just then, a loud crash came from behind the trees, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps. Ash and I exchanged nervous glances. Maybe we should hide," I suggested. "Good idea," Ash said, grabbing my hand and pulling me behind a large rock. "Wait here," he whispered, then crept away to get a better look. I peeked around the rock and gasped. Emerging from the trees was the most terrifying sight I had ever seen. A sentient toaster on legs, wielding a chainsaw. Behind it lumbered a pair of robotic arms, each tipped with a pair of scissors that flashed ominously in the sunlight. To make matters worse, following closely behind the mechanical menace was a squad of heavily armed cyborg assassins, all of them sporting the same emotionless stare. I pulled myself back behind the rock and whispered frantically to Ash, "What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?" "Run," he said, without hesitation, grabbing my hand and pulling me along as he sprinted away from the advancing robots. Now, despite what my common sense was telling me, I was weirdly confident that everything was going to be okay. Like, this entire cartoon premise is predicated on the concept that I won't die. So trust me when I say that this is going to be a wild ride. So tune in next time for more adventures in surviving the AI uprising. Until then, remember, stay inside, hug trees, and don't trust toasters.